This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you doing right here on The Joe Gaither Show? This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Listening to us on Apple Podcasts or on Amazon or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe, rate, and review the show. We appreciate it. Send us your likes, comments, questions, queries, and complaints right there to Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media devices on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, wherever you like, at Joe Gaither 6. We are a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. We along with Blue Collar Unplugged. You can find us all at BamaCentral.com, your Sports Illustrated home for the Alabama Crimson Tide. At BamaCentral on the X Machine, at BamaCentral SI on Instagram, and at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook. So without further ado, let's get into the weekend. We want to talk about, of course, Alabama's loss on Wednesday. Alabama dropping a game down in the jungle. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about power forwards. Does Nate Oates need to change his style? We want to talk about the Super Bowl. It is Super Bowl weekend. I know that is a little bit outside of our normal box, but it's the Friday before the Super Bowl. We feel like we should talk about it. You can jump in and join us right there on the Facebook or YouTube or Twitter side of things if you want to jump in on the comments for that. We'll talk about Taylor Swift at the very, 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 very end, so we'll save that for the very end of it. We'll just see where the day takes us. Let's first get the terrible stuff out of the way. Alabama losing on Wednesday to Auburn, 99-81, and not good. Really, Alabama hanging in there through the first 10 minutes. Then Auburn has a pretty good nice little punch. Then Alabama makes a run, and you think, oh boy, the Crimson Tide, they're going to be right in here. And then with like 2.5 minutes left in the first half, Auburn, Janai Broom hits a three, and Auburn, the whole place falls apart, and they take a 14-point lead into halftime. Unfortunately, Alabama not able to do what Auburn was able to do up here in Coleman Coliseum. They never were able to get back into it in the second half. And whether that is on adjustments from Nate Oates or whether that is on the amount of fouls and the trouble that Alabama has, the disparity that Alabama has on the inside. The offensive rebounds were out of control down there. So it was just not a good night. It's not a good night, and now Alabama finds itself in a three-way tie technically, but really a four-way tie for first place in the conference with Tennessee, Auburn, and South Carolina. Tennessee a half game back just based off of number of games that they played. Alabama's bye week is coming up. I think next week is their bye week. It's coming up pretty soon here. But no. Dude, just not a good night. And was I disappointed? Yes, absolutely. Just from a Alabama supporter kind of standpoint, somebody who follows Alabama standpoint. But it's not anything that's that unexpected. Auburn has won 14. That was their 14th home game in a row. The last time that they had lost at home was to the Crimson Tide. And so it's just a tough night for Alabama. You ended up with Mark Sears had his 20 points, but the entire team, you shot 34% from the 3-point line. So not horribly, but not what you'd like up there, that 38-40%. You did get to the free throw line and you shot 35 free throws, but you gave them on the other side 50 free throws. The foul's just out of control. And that's why you saw Muhammad Wague not really get a whole lot of playing time. Coach Nate Oates addressing that today. You split with Auburn. You've now you swept Mississippi State. You've got Florida left to go, and you've dropped one to Tennessee. You got to see if you're going to be able to beat and split with Tennessee when they come to Coleman Coliseum. Basically, Alabama basketball, you've got 8 games left to go. 8 games left in the season, 4 at home, 4 on the road. You got at Florida, you got at Kentucky. Those are going to be challenges. You go to what? You bring A&M at home. So ideally, that's going to be a win. You win the home games, but you got some challenging road games. Tennessee at home is not going to be an easy game either. So really, it's all about the finish for Alabama basketball. What do you want to be the rest of the year? And Coach Nate Oates kind of talking about that in the press room today, and you can read about that on BamaCentral.com. But really, you've got these 8 games. You're in this 4-way tie. You've split with Auburn. You're kind of at the mercy there, but you're going to have your say with Tennessee. You have the tiebreaker over South Carolina. And look, Auburn's schedule is no joke either. Let's look at the rest of their schedule. They still play a pretty challenging schedule. They've got Kentucky coming into Neville Arena. So Kentucky, their kind of up and down year continues. They don't play any defense, but maybe the Wildcats can win a shootout. They play South Carolina also at home. That's going to be a really, really big challenge for the Gamecocks. Then they go to Tennessee. So it's not going to be an easy road for Auburn either. If Alabama can get one of those games, and look, they go to Georgia. Georgia, they're going to get one of these teams. Georgia's been up on South Carolina. They were up on Alabama. They were up on Tennessee. They were up on Florida. All of these games at home for the Georgia Bulldogs. And so maybe Georgia gives you a little bit of help and knocks Auburn down a peg. Auburn still has a home and home left with the Georgia Bulldogs. So maybe you get a little bit of help there from your conference rival. So there's still a lot to play for. You look at Alabama's losses. What, they're 16-7? Is that the total? Yeah, they're 16-7 so far. Their 7 losses. Their Ken Palm rankings for their 7 losses come against number 2, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 18, number 33, and number 67. Yeah, that number 67 is not so good against Ohio State. But really, all these games coming on the road or neutral site games against these top ranked opponents. Number 2, no neutral site against Purdue. Number 4 on the road against Tennessee. Number 5 on the road against Auburn. Number 6 neutral site against on the road against Arizona. So you've got all these losses for Alabama basketball, and they've been coming against the top level teams. You don't have a crazy difficult remaining rest of the year. I mean, you look at the rest of the year, you've got a handful of quad 1 games left with Tennessee. Let's see, Alabama quad 1. Yeah, let's see. With Tennessee, with Kentucky, I know that. With at Kentucky, Ole Miss on the road, Tennessee at home, and then on the road against Florida. So a handful of opportunities left to impress the selection committee as currently Joe Lunardi has Alabama on the 3-seed line. But Wednesday's game spurred another conversation. Wednesday's game, it stunk. Alabama got their butts kicked and really got punched in the mouth towards the end of the first half and never really got it going. We've already kind of established that in the second half, and really Auburn just stretched it out, and it became kind of an Auburn war party down there in the jungle. And it is what it is. It stinks. It just stinks. But you got to live with it from an Alabama perspective. One little conversation kind of got brought up is the Nate Oates style, is the player that's missing, is what's missing from this basketball team. And we have addressed this conversation maybe a couple of weeks ago when we talked about kind of what's missing from this basketball team, probably after the Tennessee loss, where we asked you what former Alabama player, Nate Oates player, would you have filled that last scholarship with. Now, Nate Oates is now filling it with Kai Spears, and congratulations to Kai Spears. But we asked you that a couple of weeks ago right there at Joe Gaither 6 on the Twitter/X machine, and a lot of you chimed in and voted. We had Herb Jones, we had Brandon Miller, we had Charles Bediaco, and we had a blank space for you to fill in your empty player. And a lot of people chimed in and put John Petty. There was a bunch of different names, Javon Quinterly as well, and great players in the NATO system. But really, the right answer is Charles Bediako, because you miss him so badly. If Charles Bediako was on this team and not injured in the NBA G League, as he got G League offered and kind of 2-way contract, 10-day contract, and then got hurt in the Spurs system. So his season is now kind of a wash from his standpoint, and his money hasn't really panned out to this point. Now it might, but Charles Bediako on this team, on this Alabama Crimson Tide team, would allow your Grant Nelson to play the 4, would give you that rim protection, would give you a lot of freedom in the switches, would forgive a lot of your defensive mistakes and a lot of your on-ball defending. Coach Nate Oates calling out Mark Sears after the Iron Bowl of basketball, saying we got to get better defense from our leader, Mark Sears. We got to get better on-ball defense from Mark Sears. And I ask you, and people have asked, is that appropriate for him to call out Mark Sears? Do you think that's appropriate? You can kind of chime in right there at Joe Gaither 6. Do you think it's appropriate for him to call Mark Sears out, given how strong he is offensively? Mark Sears on the night chimed in with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, only 3 turnovers. I mean, you had 15 turnovers on the night, and that doomed you. I think it was 10 turnovers in the first half. Just terrible execution in a place where you cannot have bad execution. And it was really discouraging to hear Coach Nate Oates today in the Coleman Coliseum media room. It was really discouraging to hear him say, some of it is effort and some of it is not understanding the scouting report. Some of it is not paying attention to details. That's a really discouraging thing to hear at this point in the year with only 8 games left in the season, especially when you talk, his specific example was Janai Broome. He had made like 200 some odd shots and only a small percentage had come with his left hand. And so the scouting report was to force Janai Broome to his left hand, to his offhand. But Alabama did not do that on Wednesday night. He said, we're not paying attention to the little things on the scouting report. And I wonder, is that a coaching error? Is that a coaching? Is that a connection error? Is whatever is being taught in film not seeping through? What's the issue? What's the disconnect for the Alabama basketball team? If that's the proper excuse, or not the proper excuse, but the proper reasoning for the mistakes. So why, or if it's not a coaching issue, is it a player issue? Now, Coach did say that the players are speaking up a bit more as the season has gone along. But you've got a veteran-led. You've got Grant Nelson's not a young guy. He's a third, fourth year player. Mark Sears is a senior. Aaron Estrada is a graduate student. So you've got some older players. Rylan Griffin's in his third year on the team, second year on the team. And you've got some older players here. I know you hit the transfer portal and you brought in a lot of new players, and absolutely you acknowledge that. But you've got a lot of older players who can you not understand? Are you not taking it seriously? I'm not real sure about that reasoning today that Coach Nate Oates gave for some of the defensive lapses that we've seen consistently throughout the year, whether it's on-ball pressure, whether it's switching to the right guy, whether it's getting help defense. I'm not real sure about that reasoning, how much weight that holds, how much water that holds for him to say that. So I once again, I think it is okay for Coach Nate Oates to call out Mark Sears in the press like that because I'm sure that he's called him out in person. You saw if you were in Coleman Coliseum, you saw on Saturday night against Mississippi State the little video that showed Mark Sears getting the Hard Hat Award, and Mark Sears basically said, "Hey, yes, I can play defense. Look at me, I can play defense." So I think that he's obviously been addressed. This has obviously been addressed in practice already before. And so for me, I think it is appropriate for him to get called out a little bit, in the media. It wasn't very harsh. but after the game on Wednesday night. So what else came from the game on Wednesday night was we had a friend, a member of the media, somebody that works for a rival company, but Chase Goodbread, we'll just call it Chase Goodbread, basically insinuated that Nate Oates needed to find himself a wide-bodied power forward, so a glass-eating power forward, I believe was what was the phrase. And I like Chase a whole lot. I mean, really, there's not anybody on the beat that I don't like, but I think that he does a good job. But he's gotten a lot of heat, a lot of backlash, and now Chase probably does a good job of ignoring that from his standpoint because he's a lot wiser than I am. But I would like to contend that Nate Oates has had a handful of wide-bodied, glass-eating power forwards, and he basically acknowledged. Chase acknowledged that it doesn't necessarily fit the Nate Oates system, and that's true. It doesn't. But Alabama has had a handful of wide-bodied, glass-eating power forwards, and so here's the names that I came up with just since Coach Oates has been here. Coach Oates has had Javion Davis, who's now at UAB. He's had Juwan Gary. He's had Galen Smith. He's had James Rojas. He's had Keon Ambrose Hilton. And to an extent, he's had Noah Gurley and Noah Clowney. Now, Noah Clowney is not necessarily your classic wide-body, glass-eating power forward, but he's probably your best bet of what you're wanting, of what Nate Oates is willing to go after. And same with Noah Gurley as well. Noah Gurley just dangerous enough offensively and just athletic enough defensively to give you what you want. These other guys, Javion Davis, Juwan Gary, Galen Smith, James Rojas, Keon Ambrose Hilton. I mean, these are your, oh my gosh, a bull in a china shop, no skill at all type players. And now I certainly appreciate what they offered to the Crimson Tide during their time here at the Capstone, but let's not fool ourselves. These are not premier type basketball players that, Javion Davis, he's having a good time at UAB. I haven't seen his numbers, and UAB is pushing for an at-large bid. I do know that if they don't win their conference. And go Blazers. It's nice to see the state of Alabama basketball as a whole being good. But, I don't want to see Galen Smith back out there roaming the paint. I don't want to see James Rojas. And I mean, yes, James Rojas, Jimmy Buckets, he would go in there and work his tail off. He would go in there and give you his all. All these guys gave you a top effort, but they were worth next to nothing offensively. And while you say, you're going to get your 4 or 5 rebounds, yes, absolutely you could. But look at what's coming in next year's recruiting class in Aiden Sherrill. You're going to have a guy who is 6'10", 6'11", who can, he's going to be thin. Yes, he's going to be thin. I acknowledge that. But he's going to be able to play in the post a little bit, and he's going to stretch you out. Look at a guy like Jaron Stevenson. Jaron Stevenson is Noah Clowney light. Basically diet Noah Clowney. If Noah Clowney had reclassified and we had seen him a year earlier, he is what Jaron Stevenson is now. Now, Jaron has probably improved a great deal more because he's reclassified, but he's still, remember, 17 years old. He should be playing high school basketball, and he's playing against college players and men, basically. Once you get into the higher levels of college basketball, you're playing against borderline grown men. I mean, Javon Quinterly's 25, 26 years old. You're playing against older players, and you got to remember that Jaron Stevenson is still a young guy. Jaron Stevenson is kind of that, let's go out and get a power forward. Let's go out and get a power forward that fits our mold, but that can also, do some of the dirty work that you saw Noah Clowney do last year when Noah Clowney's shot wasn't necessarily dropping as much. Just think about it. Think about this team with Charles Bediako filling that final scholarship. Oh my gosh, you got Bediako. You could be dealing with the Nick Pringle. You could be dealing with the Nick Pringle disruption on the end of the bench about, practice habits and buy-in and, little things like that. You could deal with that on the end of the bench with a Bediako starting. using Diabate, using Wagee, and using Stevenson and Nelson kind of as supplements to your Bediako. Oh my gosh, it would just be such a different team with Charles Bediako on the floor right now. So again, I think that you have had some of these players come into the fold, and Chase is not, you seen a bunch of bad names getting that thrown out there, and he's none of that. But really, Coach Oates is doing just fine. He's had some of these players. We've seen some of them in the system more, how they've played. I don't want to see Galen Smith. I don't want to see James Rojas. And I know James Rojas went on to Wichita State and had a fine little time. Juwan Gary went to Nebraska and had a fine little time as well. Like, we wish them all well. Good for you. But my borderline is an Alex Reese, is a Noah Clowney. These guys fit so much better. And maybe even Mohamed Diabate. Mohamed Diabate doesn't have a great three-point shot. You don't really have to have that three-point shot, but he's a much better slasher, a much better athlete than your Galen Smiths, than your Keon Ambrose Hiltons. And that athleticism allows you to guard multiple positions on the defensive side of the floor, so you're not a defensive liability. Now, granted, you're lacking a little sand in your pants. You're lacking a little bit of meat, a little bit of muscle on the block, but you're able to switch so much more effectively and get into passing lanes. I think that, while, in a perfect world, yes, of course, you'd love to have a guy like a Charles Barkley. I mean, you'd love to have a guy like a Reginald King. You'd love to have some of these guys, the classic power forward. But they don't just grow on trees. And if there is one in the next recruiting class, I guarantee you this, Coach Nate Oates will be all over evaluating their fit into the system, because Coach has been recruiting at a high level. Recruiting at a super high level. He's got the number 6 overall class in the 2024 class, and he's already starting to make some moves on the 2025 class. All right, so let's keep things rolling here on a Friday edition of the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. We'll do this really, really fast. We'll do this part really fast. We're going to double check ourselves from the midweek slate. What did we go this past week? We lost. We won all the games except for the Alabama game, if I can remember correctly. NCAA scores. Saturday, because we're going to go over the Saturday slate really fast. But before we do that, let's double check ourselves. Yes, the only score that we lost was the Alabama game. Boo hoo hoo, that stinks. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1 for the midweek slate. All right, Saturday, 11 a.m., Alabama and LSU. Look, Alabama is a 6.5-point favorite. I expect the Tide to win and cover. We're taking the Tide. Vanderbilt is at South Carolina. They're at noon on SEC Network. We're taking South Carolina. Auburn is at Florida. That's going to be a little bit of a challenging game and a lot of fun at 2:30 on Saturday. Auburn, a 1.5-point favorite on the road. Ooh, you might get your help right there from an Alabama perspective. Let's go ahead and take the Gators at home. Gonzaga is playing Kentucky in a non-conference game over in Rupp Arena. We'll just go ahead and take Kentucky. They're a 4.5-point favorite. Gonzaga not having a great year so far. Georgia is taking on Arkansas. Battle of the Suck. Arkansas, 1.5-point home favorite. We'll give it to Woo Pig Sooie. Number 6, Tennessee is at A&M. You might get a little help here. A&M, that's not going to be an easy game for Tennessee, but we are going to take the Tennessee Vols. And then Mississippi State goes to Missouri. Missouri still winless in the conference and will stay that way. We'll take the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So that's going to be your weekend slate. I went 5-1 through the midweek slate. Maybe we can go undefeated on the Saturday slate. Let's go into Sunday. And my friend James Ludeman gets me to that with his comment right there on Facebook. And you can join us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, at Joe Gaither Sick. Leave your comment. James Flash Ludeman chimes in over under the amount of times that Taylor is shown on TV. 14.5. That gets us to a tease. The last bit of our show will be all the Taylor Swift props. There's 16 Taylor Swift props from Forbes Betting. And the first prop is, will Taylor Swift be shown on camera during the game at least 6 times? 6. 6 is the over-under, and we are saying yes at least 6 times. James, to your comment, over-under 14.5, I'll go over. I'll go over because I think the Chiefs will win. I think they're going to show her a lot, especially towards the end of the game. We'll go over. So we'll save that for the very end. But let's talk about the actual Super Bowl. Look, this is not an NFL show, but it is Super Bowl Friday. We've kind of saved everything NFL-wise, to try to condense everything. But we're going to talk about Chiefs and 49ers. Look, the Alabama perspective from the 49ers, you've got tight end Cam Latu, and he's on injured reserve. And I think Isaiah Buggs, I believe, is on injured reserve for the Chiefs. So there's nobody active from an Alabama's perspective. And that's unfortunate. But you see another classic matchup with the 49ers and Chiefs. Let's see. There you go. Yeah, that's what I want right there. 49ers still a 1.5 point favorite. And I want to go back to a comment that I made. One of my loyal listeners. We chat all the time. Troy Williams and I. Yeah. Let's see. Troy Williams and I talked about the 49ers, and I worked it out with him. I picked. My pick is going to be, I'm taking the Chiefs +2 and the game to hit 27-24. I'm taking the Chiefs to win 27-24. So yeah, that's the 1.5. I will take the Chiefs plus the 1.5. Because I think they're going to win the game. I think the 49ers are better as a whole, but really, I don't know. There's something about the NFL? I don't know if the NFL is rigged. We're not going to say that at all. But Patrick Mahomes is a hell of a quarterback, and Travis Kelce, they're a hell of a connection. It's going to be a lot of fun over there in Las Vegas. And I think right there at the end, you're going to see the Chiefs pull it out there. 27-24 is my prediction for Kansas City. All right, let's wrap this up. We've already talked about Alabama basketball. We've talked about where they stand in the league. We've talked about kind of their loss on Wednesday, how they're going to respond. I do think they're going to win pretty easily tomorrow. I think the biggest story is how they play the rest of the year on the road. Obviously, it starts tomorrow at LSU. Then they've got Kentucky and Florida. So they've got four not so easy road games left this year. What's my fourth one? I couldn't remember. Oh, at Ole Miss. Yes, at Ole Miss, right before the Tennessee game. So really, it's going to be how Alabama plays on the road, especially at Kentucky. Every time they've played a quality team on the road away from Coleman Coliseum, they seem to have struggled. They seem to get inside themselves and play a little bit soft. So let's finish this up with Taylor Swift. I don't know if you were a fan of Taylor Swift. If you're not, we haven't talked about it on the show because, frankly, it's not relevant to Alabama in any way. But here's my thoughts. Look, the whole year, it's been a lot of fun. I am not a Chiefs fan. You guys know that I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and they stink so badly. I acknowledge that. We do a podcast right here on the Twitter machine at BIM_pod, Believe in Monsters, where we commiserate about the Bears. But this isn't about the Bears. This is about Chiefs and 49ers. I think that the Chiefs are going to win. I think the story with Taylor Swift has been A-okay. I'm not like a Swiftie. I'm not banging all her tunes every day. If I hear, I like Anti-Hero just a little bit. I hear some of her old stuff. Of course, Teardrops on My Guitar. The original stuff is still kind of in my wheelhouse. But I'm not listening to it daily. I've got a lot of friends who are Taylor Swift fans. We support that. Look, I want to include anything that makes the game more inclusive. I know football is kind of often hard to get into because what's a first down? How do I explain, how do I explain a play action pass? Like, how do I explain, this is a 6-point play. This is a 3-point kick. This is a 1-point kick. Like, I know sometimes there's a little barrier there. If Taylor Swift gets people into the door, fine. By all means, put her on TV. Look, the amount of times that she's been on the broadcasts in each of these Chiefs games, I think it's been average of like 3 minutes per game. It's a 3-hour dang broadcast, and she's been on it 3 minutes. She's not an unattractive figure by any means. I think it's perfectly fine. Put her on there, get more people involved in the game, get more people loving the game. And I'm not crazy about her, but I'm not gonna sit here and complain about her presence being. Oh man, look, she's in the luxury box. She's just a player's girlfriend, and whether you want to think it's a plant or not, and there's a little bit of maybe you think it is a plant. I think that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift might have gotten together originally as a PR fix, but I think they actually love each other, and if so, great. We support that. We support we want everybody to be happy in their romantic lives here on the Joe Gaither Show. So without further ado, let's get into the 16 Taylor Swift props for the weekend, and then we'll shut this bad boy down and get you on out of here. Number one, we've already addressed it. Will Taylor Swift be shown on camera during the game at least 6 times? We're saying yes. Number two, will Taylor Swift make it to Super Bowl on time for kickoff after her Tokyo concert? She is performing over there in Japan, so that's going to be a crazy trip, but I'm going to say yes again. Number three, will Taylor Swift be wearing a Travis Kelce jersey? This one I'm going to go no. All these are yes or no's. Number four, will Taylor Swift be shown singing along with the national anthem? Ooh. You know what? I'm going to say yes. Normally, they might sit there and listen, but I'm going to say she is going to be shown singing along. Will Travis Kelce make Swift's famous heart hands after scoring a touchdown? You know the heart hand signal, and I say absolutely so. If Travis Kelce scores a touchdown, he's throwing up the heart hands. Number 6, will Swift be shown hugging Kelce's mom during the game? 100% yes. Number 7, will Swift hug Brittany Mahomes after a Chiefs touchdown? Yes. Number 8, will the broadcasters mention a Swift lyrics at least 3 times? You've got Tony Romo doing the broadcast, right? So Tony Romo is going to be cheesy with it. He's going to be really cheesy with it. So I will say yes again. Number 9, will Taylor Swift be shown on camera during Usher's Super Bowl halftime show? Ooh. I'll say no. I bet you Usher made a big old stink about it. Number 10, will Swift be in a Super Bowl commercial? Of course she will be. Number 11, will Kelce quote a Swift song after the game concludes? I will say no on that. Number 12, will Kelce and Swift kiss on the field after the game? If the Chiefs win, yes, but you don't have that caveat. I am taking the Chiefs to win, so I will say yes. Number 13, will Swift be shown holding the Lombardi Trophy? No, absolutely not. She won't. Number 14, will the Super Bowl MVP mention Taylor Swift in his speech? Ooh, if the Super Bowl MVP is on the 49ers, then yes, I bet you he trolls them that way. But I'm going to say no. And number 15, will Swift receive a Gatorade shower on the field? No is my vote there. And lastly, number 16, will Travis Kelce propose to Taylor Swift? I will say no on that as well. I think they might get engaged, but not right after the Super Bowl. We'll have to watch and see how that plays out. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun on the Super Bowl this Super Bowl weekend. Make some plans to enjoy the game with your family or with your friends. Be safe on the Super Bowl. Goodness gracious, there's no reason to turn what is a fun weekend, a celebratory weekend, into something terrible by making dumb decisions. So we hope you enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Alabama basketball at 11 a.m. on Saturday. You can follow it right there at BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. Our friends Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle will have you covered on Blue Collar Unplugged as well. We'll be covering all things. Look, softball got rolling. Softball, a no-hitter yesterday, and then an 11-0 spot on Friday. So they are off and rolling 2-0, and then baseball gets started next week. So we will have all kinds of sports going crisscross. Alabama women's basketball, Coach Christy Curry got herself 500 wins, her 500th win by beating the Tennessee Vols. You love to see that. You love to see anytime Alabama beats Tennessee. Congratulations to Christy Curry. All the sports doing well. We're going to cover it right here at BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. So this has been another week, and we appreciate you watching us, the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. You watched us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. You listen to us on Apple Podcast, Amazon, and on Spotify. You're following me on your favorite social media machine machine at Joe Gaither 6. Go ahead and send me a like, a comment, a question, or send me a friend request, and we will chat it up talking Alabama football, basketball, whatever you want to get into right there at Joe Gaither 6. So we'll be back to see you on Monday. We'll cover it all right here at Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.